Doors closing.
And now, something completely different.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.
Call from
Chris Kelly.
What's going on? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And on the phone line, in a weird way, I've been growing up with this guy. So my Nana lived in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And every Thanksgiving and during the summer, I would listen to this guy in the morning. On the phone line from the Two Guys Named Chris show, Chris Kelly is on Hoppe Hour. What's up, bro?
How you doing, Ryan? It's good to talk to you. It makes me feel old. You and your Nana listening at Thanksgiving and in the summer. I appreciate it, but boy, I've been doing it a long time. So it's been a while.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would go back because she had a radio in her room and I was bored because she would just watch TV. She watched Reba all day. That was the show that was on TV all the time. And I would be in the other room and I would either listen to you guys or Murphy in the Morning. I would flip back and forth.
Well, Murphy in the Morning is a great show. I started on that show. I did that show here in North Carolina for 6 years with Jack Murphy, and then started the Two Guys Named Chris show after that. And interestingly, we're like the same person. I watched Reba last night. How about that?
Oh my God,
how good
that's
is that?
awesome. What do you like about Reba?
Well, I like her homespun comedy, and I like all her family stuff and how they tell it like it is. And they really had real problems, like the girl had a baby too young, and I just thought it was pretty funny. I thought she did a good job. Although, interestingly, I just started watching that fairly recently, so I thought it was a show that was fairly new, and it's about 25 years old. I didn't realize that, honestly. Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Going back to Jack Murphy, what was it like working for him?
I loved him. At the time, I thought he was really demanding. I mean, he was demanding. He wanted that show to be great, every single segment. And I used to think when I worked with him that he was, too tough on us. I worked with Jack Murphy and Terry Knight, and we had various producers that would come through. And I thought he was really too hard and too demanding. And I used to think, he had it easier because I did a lot of work behind the scenes and that kind of stuff. But then when I switched over to the Two Guys Named Chris show, I played more of his role, I guess. And the more I really respect what he did. And now looking back, I realize he's a great radio talent. He knew what he wanted. He knew how to tell a story. He knew how to connect with the audience. Form that emotional connection, and we're still friends. He lives in Charlotte, and we text each other fairly often. Every couple of months, we'll just check in with each other. And I consider him a real mentor for me, and I think he taught me a whole lot. So I have nothing but respect for Jack Murphy. What
are some of the craziest memories you've had working on that show?
With Murphy, golly, we did so many things. I remember one time. We had a bet on the NCAA tournament, and the payoff for the bet was the loser had to kiss a pig, which I had to do. And that really turned out really funny. At one point, he had us bowling, and we lost. Somehow we had to wind up doing this, and we had to bowl while dressed up like in ladies' lingerie. And that was pretty fun. And we had a great promotion once when Friends was at its peak. We did a thing. We did the whole show from a barber shop and gave away. It was the Rachel haircut.
Yeah.
And everybody got a Rachel haircut, and we had all sorts of Friends, coffee mugs and T-shirts and stuff. And it was really good. He knew how to take an event and make it bigger, and he was just really, really good with that kind of stuff. So those are some of the memories I had. And we used to hang out a lot, like and play sports trivia on Thursday nights, and it just I really had a lot of good memories with Jack Murphy, even though he was tough. Now, he was really tough, but I respect it because he really knew what he wanted and wanted that show to be really good.
How long have you been in radio, and also what got you into radio?
I started in radio, honestly, when I couldn't even drive. I was 15 years old. I wanted to be, since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a sportscaster, like play-by-play. I would sit in front of the television, turn it down during basketball or football games, and do the play-by-play of it. And when I got into, sophomore year, high school, freshman, sophomore year, a job came open at the little AM station in Asheboro, North Carolina, where I'm from. And so I auditioned for that. I went for that just to be on the radio. I thought that'll get my foot in the door. And I did it and got the job and enjoyed it, loved it. And then went off to college and stayed doing it. I worked at WASU up at Appalachian State, where I went. And before that, even in high school, I got a job, surprisingly, at G105 in Raleigh. Actually, I thought I might get into UNC Chapel Hill. Did not. Still on the wait list. But I did those things trying to get a play-by-play job, and got to where I liked doing radio so much. When I got the opportunity to be on with Jack Murphy, that's who we were talking about, then I did that and have never looked back. So I got that job. So I started when I was 15, part-time, went all the way through college, got the Murphy in the Morning job in 93, and I've been working there in that same building, first with Jack Murphy on 107.5 KZL for 6 years, and now 26 years at Rock 92. So, 32 as a morning show guy, which, boy, it seems like it goes fast, I'll tell you that. But it's been that long that I've been on the mornings here.
Now, what I want to ask you as well is, what's been the biggest difference between when you guys were a live and local morning show and then went national? What was the thing that you guys changed, if there is anything you changed?
A little bit, not too much, because we sort of feel like funny is funny. We're so concentrated on, especially these days, just comedy, making it funny, making it personal, telling personal stories. And so what we did basically is just sort of eliminate talking about really local things. Like, we have a shopping center here called the Friendly Center, where now if we're mentioning it, we just say, we were at a big shopping center, which sort of, it makes it a little more muted. And the more we do that, we're on like 8 or 10 stations and, across North Carolina, a little bit in South Carolina, a few others. And so I feel like if it's funny enough and we need it, even if it's local, it's okay. It's like the trade-off is okay, because I don't think anybody listening in Nebraska, we're on in Nebraska, would say, oh, wait a minute, I don't get this, and just turn away. So I don't think a whole lot has changed. It's very similar. We just sort of remind ourselves that not everybody knows what this is. So sometimes we might say, I was going down a major road here called Battleground Avenue. We might just describe it that way. Or so, instead of saying over in Greensboro, I might say, here where we are. So it's just little language things like that. Otherwise, I think it's pretty much the same.
When you guys get feedback online, besides being on in Winston-Salem, are there other cities that you hear from more than others? Like, do you get a lot of messages from Nebraska? Like, where are some of the places that you get the most messages from?
Well, some from Nebraska, but we hear a lot from Myrtle Beach, a lot from New Bern. We're on those, down around the coast here. Myrtle Beach, quite a bit. And then we get a lot from Raleigh. We're on a station there, a small station. And then a lot of folks listen in Charlotte, even though we're not on a station there. They listen to Rock 92 there. So we hear from a lot, like down in that area of the state, Concord, Charlotte, that area. We just did a couple of we do these two guys named Chris comedy all-star shows, and we had two of them in that area. One was in Salisbury, one was in Statesville, and they were really successful. A lot of people turned. When we get interaction, we sort of track that kind of thing. When we get interaction or online listening, online participation, Charlotte is really big for us. I'd love for us to be on a station there, but so far we haven't had luck getting on there. But we hear a lot from Charlotte, and I'd say a lot from Myrtle Beach.
Did you have a relationship at all with David Ace Cannon? I met him 12 years ago at the morning show boot camp, and he was kind of like a radio dad to me. And I actually did a TikTok about him. I did a 9-minute kind of speech about him on my show, and I made it into a video on TikTok, and I got like 30,000 views. Because I'm not from North Carolina, I didn't know how big of an impact he had on the area.
He was unbelievable. I met him only a couple of times. Once when we were really young. Well, Kristen and I were just starting. It was in 2000. We'd been on about a year, maybe a little less than a year. And we were in Dallas at a Kid Craddock convention. He was there, and I just sort of said hello to him. And he and TJ were just so impressive at that event. They were so funny and creative. And all of us were just like, those guys are really good. And we knew, of course, because they were from Charlotte, so we knew them. somewhat jealous of them. And it's like, boy, they are really good. And then I only met him a few years after that at a different convention. We were in Chicago.
Yeah.
And, well, you were there. You were there, yeah. And I saw him there and spent some time with him there, and just sort of got to know him. And he was getting into podcasting. He was talking about that. And God, I have so much respect for him.
I know,
because they built that and just had an incredible show. I thought they worked off of each other so well, played off of each other so well. I know he had his wife on the air a lot, but the really just a few interactions with him.
Yeah.
But I was also on some radio, like I would see the online boards with him, and I thought he was fantastic. I just really hate what happened with him.
I know.
So tragic, the way his life turned. But he is to me, one of the all-time greats when it comes to morning radio. Just he had it. He just had that thing, kind of like Jack Murphy. He just knew the right steps to make a show bigger and go the distance with it. He was phenomenal.
The thing with Ace too was whatever he needed or whatever I needed, he would provide in a way. So like to have a reference on a job interview, yes, whatever you need, Ryan. It was always whatever you need. But the other thing I loved about him in 2018, when my uncle was passing away, I drove up from Tampa to go see my uncle and just to see my mom. And I was like, hey, Ace, would you want to get dinner? And we're set to get dinner because I was going to drive up from Winston to go to Charlotte or whatever because I love Charlotte. I'm a Hornets fan. I'm a Bobcats fan. I love that city. And he said to me, he goes, I'm not going to be able to make it. Cade has like a wrestling match and my daughter has cheerleading. So what I'm saying to you is family was so important to him. Like a lot of other people, I think would go out and maybe get the dinner, but and he was so sorry about it. And I'm like, dude, like you were a great dad. Yeah, he was. Yes, exactly. That's what I know that about him. And he just seemed like a wonderful person. And I know he was an incredible talent. And so it's really hurt when I had heard just fairly recently what happened with him. I was just crushed by him. We all were. It's like there's a real fraternity, a real like a brotherhood of people who go to those conventions, and some of the huge names, Kid Craddock, who also passed away, and Dave Ryan, and all those guys, and Ace and TJ right up at the top of the list. And it was just awful the way it ended for him. But he is an amazing person and an amazing talent. So I mean, he's absolutely missed. Are you going to the boot camp this year? No, we only go every once in a while, and we've been doing it now so long. It's really good for us to go. Usually about every 5 or 6 years we'll go. Not this year, but I love it when we go because I feel like it provides a real like boost of energy when we do. It's like you do it. It's such the job is so. I mean, it's like every day, day in, day out. You try to do a good show every segment, every day. And you sort of lose sight of what you're doing sometimes. Yeah, I feel that. Then you go there and you see the way other people do it and you get fresh ideas, and it really is a nice kick to do it. So I would love to go. We're not going this year, but hopefully next year or very soon we will go because I do like that very much. I haven't gone in 4 years, and I'm going this summer. And I'm going because I feel like you meet new people, and I feel like you said, there's a certain new excitement that you get when you go. Yes. And for me, it's realizing that like we're not, mowing lawns or whatnot. Like we're talking into a microphone for a living because we get so into our groove that I feel like a lot of times you burn out. And I feel like flying there, sleeping in the hotel, like the whole thing is just kind of almost like a vacation. It is. And it's a real like adrenaline boost. Like you say, you do it every day, and it becomes where you burn out. We get up really early to do it, and it's it's a grind. It's a real grind. And that helps when we did. I mentioned those comedy shows we did. We did a lot of meet and greets with people who listen to the morning show before those comedy shows, and that would come up and say, "Oh, I really enjoy your show," and that kind of thing. And it was really appreciated. It really makes you feel good. Like you say, it's work. It's good work. It's worth doing, and things like boot camp or meeting listeners like that remind me of that. So it is a really good thing to do. I know you know Kipper McGee. Yes. Kipper McGee's the man. I love that guy. He gave me an opportunity to produce his show, so I would drive on the weekends 12 years ago. It was fun.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I don't know him that well. I have interacted with him a few times, and we were on his podcast probably a year ago, and he's like a legend. Kipper McGee is really something. Yeah, I really like him.
Now,
he's a character.
My two favorite things about the Triad area is Haynes Mall and the Village Tavern. I have to go every time.
Well, both are great. That's Haynes Mall is probably the best mall in the whole area for sure, and still going strong. Even as malls, I think, start to deteriorate.
Love it.
But Haynes Mall is one of those exceptions, and Village Tavern is an institution in Winston-Salem and Greensboro. It's great. It's great food. I agree.
Their steak is so good. Oh my God. It
is.
One of my favorite memories there, I had this uncle that was severely mentally ill, and he lived in Winston-Salem, and he lived with my Nana down there. And my rich uncle, who passed away last year, lived in L.A. and would help pay for my Uncle Bob after my Nana died in 2006. The dude was off his mind. If it wasn't for my uncle, he probably would have been in jail. Just a mentally ill person. And we would always go to Village Tavern with him, and he'd be like, oh, that waitress is a hot piece of ass in front of everybody. But my favorite memory of him was we were there, and he asked for a rare steak. They go, no, you want medium rare? And he goes, rare, please. And they came back with it, and then he got really sick that night. And it's like, bro, you ate a raw meat.
Well, no wonder. Yeah, exactly. Well, he chose the right restaurant. It is a great spot. I agree. It's really good.
Now, how did you first meet Chris Dem?
Well, Chris Dem was working on Rock 92 when I was working on the Murphy in the Morning Show, and we had a bit of a rivalry because we basically had the same job. Yeah, for different shows. So we were rivals, instantly. I guess his personality and mine certainly is like, you meet somebody, especially that's doing the same job, and you're like, he can't be that good. I don't like him. And so it was icy at first. But then we found out we had a lot in common. We, he's a little older than me, but we both enjoyed sports, and we played basketball together. We played pickup basketball and such. And so he's the funniest guy I think I've ever met. I mean, we have Biggie on the show now and Chris Dem, and we're so lucky because Chris Dem is just, he says things that I don't think anybody else would ever say. It's such an interesting viewpoint on comedy, and he's so wickedly funny with just one line. And he would, always tear me up and break me up when we were talking just about other things. And I think they recognized that at the station. So he was on Rock 92 and I was on 107.5. And we would get together sometimes and like for holiday parties and such, we would do videos and just funny little things, presentations at parties for the radio station. And so we enjoyed doing that and working together, and we seemed to work well off each other and have good chemistry. So he was working with Brad Krantz, and then they got John Boy and Billy syndicated, and he ran the board for them for a couple of years. So they went away because I guess they were bought out by iHeart, Clear Channel at the time, and they had a different station in town, so they moved them. And when they did, the management wanted to try us together. So they put us together, and, the first couple of weeks are rough, but after that, we sort of got it together and got it going, and now, golly, it's been 26 years. I remember, so that's how we started together. We started out sort of as rivals, then became friends, worked together off the air, and management had the idea to put us together on the air, and it's been a great career. It's been a real blessing for me, and he is phenomenal on the radio. He really has a gift for that, for sure.
Did you ever have a relationship with John Boy and Billy?
No, I don't know them at all, except, oddly, interestingly, I have only been in the same room with John Boy and Billy twice. One time when they were being inducted into the North Carolina, the NCAB Hall of Fame, and I watched them give their speech. And the other time I was with my now wife at Village Tavern, and John Boy was across the restaurant, and I spotted him over there. Oh, there's John Boy. So I don't really know. I don't know them. In fact, I don't know their show that well, but I know it's really popular. And when we were going against them the first few weeks, it was the first ratings period when they moved to a different station. It was like, boy, we better bring an A game. I think I know when we started on Rock 92 in early 99, they had to be off the air for like 6 months, which really helped us because we were able to sort of get it together and figure out what we were doing by the time they came back on. Otherwise, they may have just killed us because they were so popular, and they were they really tapped into that Southern kind of Southern comedy, and people really loved them. But, I don't know that much about them, except they do have, funny characters that are really well known. And I know Billy is really, really talented. Well, they both are. I mean, they're really talented. So I got a lot of respect for them too. And I think Chris Evans mentioned, the show's not his cup of tea, but I don't really know it that well.
It's pre-recorded now. It's a lot of laughter. It's I can see how Chris doesn't like it.
Yeah, a lot of people tell me that, and I know it's pre-recorded now, and it's interesting. We never, unless we're on vacation, we don't run recorded stuff. Except in like a best of at night or whatever. But we're live 6 to 10, and I think there's a real place for that. We still get up really early and go in and prepare it, and I think that is part of our success, because I know a lot of shows now do a lot of, half of it's recorded and put together ahead of time, which there's certainly a place for that. And you can make good radio doing that. But for us, I like it that we do it live. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I think it helps us. It gives us that energy, that kind of boost that we need to do it live the whole 4 hours.
Now, how did you guys get Biggie on the show?
Well, Biggie, golly, he's so funny and talented also, and really hard worker behind the scenes too. It's been like 17 years now. We had a guy before him named Goat Boy. His real name is Chris Ems, and he was a good guy too, but it just wasn't quite working. He was behind the scenes. He was dropping the ball and a few things, so that wasn't working out. And Biggie at that time was friends with Jared, who is now on 107.5, wound up working with Murphy in the morning.
Oh, yeah, Jared,
and Biggie was, Jared. So Biggie was his friend. They worked together at Papa John's Pizza at the time. But Biggie was also a budding stand-up comedian, and he would come in and do like prank phone calls late at night. And we had heard that he had done some really funny things. And so we said, when Goat Boy left us, we went to Jared and said, do you think Biggie would work out? And, Jared gave him a real blessing. And Jack Murphy had worked with him a little bit and said, yeah, he's really funny. So we interviewed him and then just had him on sort of on a trial basis, and immediately knew he's just great. And, at first he didn't talk as much, but within not very long, he was also, pitching right in. And it really worked well amongst all of us on the show. The chemistry worked really well. And he's also, unbelievably funny. He does a great job. And, he just couldn't ask for a better producer co-host.
What I like is that he's able to bust your balls, because there's a lot of morning radio shows where, like, the host is untouchable.
I know. I don't know why that is. To me, that's really a part of our success. I don't think there's any real egos in that room, and I know I don't have it, and I don't mind being the butt of the joke. I am the butt of the joke quite often, and I think that has been a real secret for us, because we each can go after the other, and certainly Biggie has no problem going after me, and I find it's funny, and for the laugh, if it makes for good radio and people stick with it, I'm all for it. And so, we all play our roles kind of like that. I sort of am kind of full of myself, and Biggie just brings me right down to the earth. And you're right, he will take me on at any time, and I have no problem with that. It really has worked out well.
Now, I'm curious about this. Has there ever been a time that, there's a few examples I want to ask. Has there ever been a time that there was a kid who, you have two kids, and when they were in school, was there ever a time that any of the classmates or teachers or principal or parents heard something and then brought it up that day or something? Anything like that?
Well, it does happen that their friends listen a lot and will look even now, and will look now. There's we put YouTube clips and so forth online, and I'll talk about my son especially a lot. He's given me a lot of material through the years, and so yes, they'll hear it, but they're always flattered by it. They never really mind it. I've never gotten in trouble for doing that. Once my son had done something, I believe it was on a golf course, where something went wrong, and I mentioned him and I mentioned his friend's name. And the friend's parents, it got back to me. They never talked to me about it, but it got back to me that they didn't like their son's name being mentioned. So I sort of marked that down. And, Jack Murphy told me one time years ago, he's like, the advice I'll give you if you go and do the show on, a different show on your own, is talk about your life, use real names, and ask for forgiveness later. And I've done that, and I've never really gotten in too much trouble for that, but sometimes I just use first names. But yes, occasionally when I'll say something about my son or my daughter, a teacher or a classmate or something will hear it. But they usually are like flattered by it. I think we've learned through the years to tell the story in a way where it's always that I'm the butt of the joke or my son's the butt of the joke. So, it doesn't, I try not to put them down too badly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Has there ever been a time that like something happened and maybe it's your wife or anybody they asked for it not to be mentioned,
Yeah, once I talked about, a good friend of mine is a lawyer, and I mentioned his name, and I talked about something where he had fixed a ticket or something like that, and he was getting in trouble at his work, so he said, look, you cannot. He was really upset about that. He got mad about it, and that's when I learned, like, okay, that was pretty early on, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I better just mention first names only and sort of I don't know, manipulate the story so it doesn't make anybody look too bad. And so I just realized that, other people have jobs they don't want to be mentioned in like that. Well, I have a good friend that works at the bank, and one time we did a story, well, it was an April Fool's Day joke, where we said you could go and put your driver's license into the ATM and it would give you money, but what it was really doing was taking people's license. So we really should not have done it. And it messed up a lot of their ATMs, and my friend from the bank was really upset. They were upset at him because they thought he was in on it, and that was a real problem. I didn't even think that through, So sometimes it does come back to bite me a little bit, but these days, I think we are able to work around. I think we've learned and gotten to be more experienced, so we can tell the story in a way that it doesn't hurt people's feelings. I don't ever want to hurt anybody's feelings anymore. When you're young, you kind of want to make an impression and just say whatever you want to say. Say something controversial. Yeah. But then when you get a little older, a little more experience, I think you can do it with more nuance, and it's just, make it funny, make yourself the butt of the joke, be self-deprecating, and it just works out better that way.
I've worked on some shows that lean on being sexual, and the problem is I talked about my sex life in Tampa for 7 years, so like there's people that remember things. That's the one thing, if I have any advice for younger radio people, like keep some things sacred, because my mom knows everything about my sex life between 2015 to 2022.
Yeah, I know, and that's sometimes you're doing it and you're like, oh, geez, I hope my mom's not hearing this. I hope my sister's not hearing
Every
this.
Time
that kind of thing. I know
they always are. They always are when it happens.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I credit Chris Dim and Biggie with this. If I start talking about something real personal or sensitive like that, they're able to make a joke and make it so funny and outrageous that it's like, even if it's just so fun and over the top, it's not like. It's like you're talking about sex, but you're not really, it's like it just becomes more funny. And I don't know, they do a really good job with that. So my wife, poor thing, she has to take some of that, but I think she's okay with it. I don't think we've ever gotten too out of line with that.
Now, what do you think about the Radio Hall of Fame? Well,
I would love to be in it, but I don't think I'll ever get there. I never really think about those kinds of things. To me, there are some radio greats, of course, Howard Stern, and Rush Limbaugh for what he did, your John Boy and Billy's who made the North Carolina Hall of Fame. There are many who are greats for sure, but I never, we've had long careers at 26 years, but I don't ever really think too much about that except to just, we just do the same show, try to do a good show, a really solid show year after year, and hope one day when it's all done, people will just say, well, you did a great job for a long time. So I don't really think much about the Hall of Fame.
What is your opinion on where radio is at?
I think it's a tough time. It's so different than it used to be. And we're on the radio, so we're on, 92.3 FM. But, the good news is you can get us on the phone, you can get us through all sorts of there are podcasts after, there are YouTube videos, so all of that is good, but there's so much more competition than there was, 25, 30 years ago when I started. It used to be we competed against local stations and that was it. So if you did better than everybody else locally, you were good. Now, obviously, anybody can listen to just about anything, anytime through Spotify or Apple Music or podcasts or XM. It's a real battle. And because of that, of course, advertising, we used to get a lot of advertising from big companies like Coke and Budweiser and Pepsi and McDonald's, which we still do some, but there's so many options for them to advertise on, and there's so many options for listeners. It's a really tough environment I believe. It's difficult to get sales and to get listeners. I mean, it's just harder than it's ever been to me. I still love it. I love. The other issue is we're a small company. We're owned by Dick Broadcasting. They own a few radio stations, but you're going up against iHeart and Odyssey, and unfortunately, at least from our view, those companies have put it in a box, and I don't know that they really. I think they should be investing in talent way more than they invest in just.
There's no farm. There's no farm system.
Yeah, right.
None.
That's a big issue. I know, that's right. There is no farm system for radio, and it seems like if Odyssey and certainly iHeart had done the job the right way, there would be a big farm system, and there'd be a lot of more local morning shows instead of one show on every station they own. And I think they'd be emphasizing talent over, just playing music. And I wish they were. I wish that's what they were doing, because that's difficult to fight. So that's a tough place to be for radio right now.
I'm kind of grateful that I have this podcast because it's doing well, and I'm always looking for podcast jobs on LinkedIn because I'm in radio, but I'm like a jack of all trades for my building. And honestly, I'm not mad at radio, Chris. But I just, how do I word this? I want to be my own brand, because I see so many radio guys that's all they have is that station. They're there since 97, and then they leave after 29 years, and then they're like, I don't know how to be myself without their radio waves, and I don't ever want to be that guy.
Well, you're right to do it that way, because Chris Dim and I have. We've been doing it for so long. We need to learn probably what you're doing. We need to do things like this. I did a podcast with a guy who works in the building for about a year and a half, and it went pretty well. But it was just a lot. We're doing a lot. We may start that up again, because it is you're right. You need to have something like that in this day and age.
You know what you need? You need to just get a good producer that you can pay per hour and have him do the work, and then you observe it. Because it's really not that hard. It's just a lot of people half-ass it, and then they give up on it. But you got to just hire somebody, be like, hey, this is my producer. And then because you can go on what's that website? The one where you can hire people. It's just Indeed. Is it Indeed or whatever? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, you do have to put in the work, but that's another thing about radio is there are fewer people to do the jobs now, and fewer people come in to the building. So, everybody's spread thin. So there's a lot. It takes a lot of work, and I'm proud. I'm proud of our show. I'm proud of what we do. We don't, we do 4 hours every day live. There's no music. It's just a talk show, and I love it. But by the end of Friday, I am beat. I'm bushed. So it's a lot of work, and it's a great medium. And I agree with what you're saying. I'm not mad at radio, but there's so much more now that you have to do and know than there was 30 years ago.
My plan's to just do radio everywhere else, to just do what I do and just do it everywhere else. Cause it's the same experience. Cause a lot of Gen Z kids, when they hear my show, they're like, cause they're not used to that format of kind of a morning radio vibe. Cause they just grew up with Joe Rogan. So they don't know that Howard Stern and guys like you were different. So that's my approach to it. Now, before I let you go, when it's all said and done, how do you want people to remember you and your show?
I want them, and I hear this sometimes from people, and it's really flattering when they say, a lot of people say, you really got me through tough times, and, we listen to you, and it's almost like your friend, we're almost consider you friends because it's such a personal medium. You're in the car with people. Sometimes you're in the house with people or in their ears. And so what I would just say is, it was fun. It was a fun experience. If they look back on this show and say, God, I had a great time listening to it, that's all we go for. We never want to be taken too seriously. We always poke fun at ourselves and try to be self-deprecating with no ego. Like I said, I would like to be remembered as somebody who worked really hard to put on a great show, and we tried our absolute best every segment, every show, every day. And I think we do. I really think we give it everything we've got every day. And so, we try to keep the level of comedy and entertainment really high. So if people say at the end of this show, you meant a lot to me, and it really helped me through my mornings, then that would be good enough for me. I would really like to hear that from people, and I do. So it's flattering. It's really gratifying.
Now, before I let you go, could I get you to record a liner real quick?
Sure.
It would be, hey, this is Chris Kelly from the Two Guys Named Chris show, and you're listening to Happy Hour with Ryan Hoppe.
Sure, yeah, let me do it. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, it's Chris Kelly from the Two Guys Named Chris show, and you're listening to the Happy Hour with Ryan Hoppe.
Boom.
Best podcast going.
Oh, perfect, bro. I love it. Now, if people don't live in the Triad area, because everybody should be listening on 92.3, but if they live elsewhere, how can they find your show?
Well, I would go to twoguysnamedchris.com, and you can listen live there, or you could go to rock92.com, which is our local station, the flagship station, and you could listen live there. TuneIn Radio, you can listen, or at either one of those sites, you'll see, or certainly at twoguysnamedchris.com, you can see the list of affiliates. So if you're in the area in Myrtle Beach or Newbern or wherever else on, you can listen on FM at those stations as well. So we'd love to have you. Believe me. Thank you.
Well, Chris, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show, and this was very surreal because I told Chris this as well. My Nana dated someone named Pete Rose, who was kind of like her end-of-life boyfriend, and he was a good guy. Yeah. It wasn't Pete Rose. He loved telling you that he wasn't that guy. And he would drive around listening to you guys, and I just always admired you guys so much from just like listening in middle school and high school. So this has just been so much fun having you on the show. Thank you, Chris.
Well, that really makes me feel good. Thank you. You were asking what we'd like people to remember. Just what you just said is what we do it for and like to hear. I really appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Keep up the good work.
You too, and have a great day.
All right, you too. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
And now is Chris Kelly from the Two Guys Named Chris show as he called into Happy Hour. Now, if you're hearing my voice for the first time, hi, my name's Ryan Hoppe, and I'm the host of this award-winning, nationally syndicated show. I have two versions. One where I interview people, and one where it's kind of like a morning zoo, a very hyper show where I speak my mind and say it like it is. Go to every single major platform that has a podcast and search up Hoppe Radio, Hoppe Radio, RyanHoppeRadio.com, and that's about it. Goodbye now.
TikTok, clocks are juking, playing cruel pranks. Hoppe's hour almost done. Feels like robbery in banks. Ryan Hoppe on the mic, dropping wisdom in streams. Syndicated sorrow, now it's time to shatter dreams. Oh, the Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilted rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. But the laughter's growing dim. Eardrums mixing Hoppe like fingers without rings. DHX to FM, shoutouts hit the street, but soon the sound will vanish like shadows in the heat. Oh, the Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. Phone lines buzzing, but the laughter's growing dim. Eardrums mixing Hoppe like fingers without rings. DHX to FM, shoutouts hit the street, but soon the sound will vanish like shadows in the heat. Oh, the Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. Oh, life's just so unfair. Like clockwork to a show. Now it's time to face the silence like a TV on snow. Ryan Hoppe held the mic with humor so divine. The void left in our hearts wider than a canyon line. Empty speakers, silent, I'm becoming to an end like a roller coaster stopping round the river's bend. Hoppy jokes and jabs, these are daily grind. Now silence louder than the thoughts we can't rewind. Oh, the happy hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilted rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. The happy hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilted rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair.
Happy hour. Happy hour.
RyanHoppyRadio.com.
And like that, he's gone.
Whenever we're going outside, all I smell is poop.
I'll kick you in the nuts and we'll call it a day.
Happy hour is now over. Happy hour is now over. Game over. This concludes our broadcast day. Good night and God bless America.
Doors closing.